Morning, everyone. It's the end of the week at City Hall, and I have some information I'd like to share with you about some of the things that have gone on, as well as share with you information on some things that might be of importance to you regarding your government in weeks ahead. You may recall last week I said to you that this weekend, or this week rather, this Friday, I would review with you sort of like the year that's just passed. And the interesting thing about this past year is that it's been remarkable to watch some of our council members and their activity throughout the year. Particularly our community-minded council member, our council member who speaks of checks and balances. Now, checks and balances is an interesting term because it suggests that you take the time to learn about what's happening, and then you just make sure that what's happening is appropriate. What check and balance is not investing time in your job as a part of a legislative body and then just voting no because you don't like something. So that's not check and balance. That's just being sort of a character like Dr. No. It's really sort of just, how do I get in the way of things because I don't want to bother to do my job. I don't want to show up for meetings of the Niagara Falls Corporation, a entity that loans money out or provides grants for small businesses. I don't want to show up to urban renewal agency meetings because why would I care about what's going on in terms of economic development in our community? After all, I'm the check and balance council member, and I just think that means I vote no on everything. As a matter of fact, as we go back and take a look at this year, the remarkable part, too, is that we have votes that go in one direction and then go in another direction. And throughout the year, the check and balance council member has voted no on almost every economic development proposal that's been placed on the council agenda. In fact, this council member voted no to provide improvements to our senior center. We had proposed improvements to improve the heating and the air conditioning, the ventilation. For our seniors of all demographics, seniors from all around the city, seniors from everywhere, go and enjoy the John Duke Senior Center. But this council member said, no, we're not going to do those improvements for the seniors. Then he decides, I don't like the pressure that I'm under. Senior citizens are upset. And so in the typical sort of boomerang whiplash fashion, he decides to vote yes then. So it's not really about learning what's going on. It's about bringing a sort of like a cheer team to council meetings to tape his performance, and then the council member goes about the business of just sort of projecting all of that and then trying to paint himself as a community, council member and a person who's here to provide check and balance. The voting record of this council member is all over the place. Never any consistency, really just voting no. It's been an interesting year, and true to form, this check and balance council member also conducted an incredible performance for the reorganization meeting. For those of you that had the opportunity to see it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, this check and balance council member still doesn't want to invest time. You know what I'm surprised at, what I'm really, really surprised at, is that the council chair called a special meeting on December 26th. And remarkably, because the check and balance council member has said openly, I'm only going to go to those things that are necessary, because I guess he doesn't get paid enough to go and do his duty. But he showed up. It was remarkable. And that's, by the way, when he sort of snapped back to realize that we have to help senior citizens. Although he continued to vote against providing an appropriate building and quarters for our public works employees, kind of disrespecting all of them. They work hard. I know that they take an awful lot of grief for a number of things that are outside of their control. But to do that it just doesn't make any sense to me. But we'll continue to watch for his great government performance all throughout this 2025 year. And I know that the senior citizens won't forget that he didn't think they were worthy of improvements at the building that they enjoy so much. But enough about him. There's another interesting development that's happened. You all know that we, the city, has been working to obtain property from Niagara Falls redevelopment. And can you do me a favor, young man? There's a folder on the top of that, right there. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. By the way, these guys are great. The students, again, here from the high school, always providing me with an opportunity to share with you information. And so I want to thank them, and Happy New Year to you guys. So you may recall, this is the property that we have been authorized to obtain by eminent domain. Now, this property here, this portion, was a playground in a park before everything was ripped out and torn apart, and then NFR put this little cinder block thing in the ground here to claim that they had commenced construction. Try not to laugh. They commenced construction for something that never got constructed. So earlier this year, we brought a resolution in front of the council to get home rule authorization from the state legislature to sell a park, to alienate, as they say in the law, to alienate a park over on Buffalo Avenue. That park was called Porter Park. Council approved it, all except, of course, the check and balance. Let me just make sure. Yes, the check and balance council member voted not to do it. Not surprising. And we were authorized then by the state legislature that took up the case and approved it to alienate this property. And the idea was it has a lot to do with economic development along Buffalo Avenue with one of the hotel developers, right? So I tell you that story because that's the process that every government, municipal government, has to go through whenever they want to alienate. Now, alienation means transfer, sell, trade, do something other than continue to own a park. In 2004, the city transferred this portion of the parcel to NFR. The part that they all forgot, even though it was in the development agreement, even though you would assume that the administration and the government and the council back then would have known, but in 2004, they signed a deed over to them, never having gone through the home rule requirement. It's not waivable. It's not something that you can just say, well, okay, forget about it. We'll just go back and we'll make up for it and let bygones be bygones. You can't. So the transfer itself while there's a deed that'll say that the city transferred it to NFR, it was void. It would be the same as me transferring to these young students here the Brooklyn Bridge. I have no authority to transfer the Brooklyn Bridge. I have to be authorized to transfer this park, and I was never authorized to transfer it. So the amazing thing is that even though the highest court of New York State has said we have the right to take that property by eminent domain, here's the good news. We already own half of it. So we're now about the process of discussing how we're going to quiet title. That is, we don't expect NFR to simply say, yeah, you know what, you're right. We didn't follow the rules and we're going to deed it back to you. That'll be about the same time you watch the cow jump over the moon. That's not happening either. So we'll have to take an action to quiet title to put things back the way they were prior to that deed that should never have been signed. And then we'll go about the business of finishing off, taking the rest of the property, that other portion. And this portion, the top portion, was received by NFR from the Department of Transportation. And it used to be a rail line. There used to be a train track through here. So, we'll go about the business of also making sure that anything that NFR should be doing to remediate it or to make it appropriate is taken into consideration as we go forward on that as well. So I thought that'd be an important update to you because I know that, like me, you're eager to put NFR in the rearview mirror. They've really been sort of an unfortunate part of our history for 30 years, doing absolutely nothing with 142 acres. Just so you get a feel for what 142 acres is. We're entering into, we're one last week of the NFL. We'll certainly be into playoff season. And we're in the middle of the college football playoffs. So everybody's got football on their head, right? Think about this for a moment. The Seneca Nation of Indians were granted 51 acres of property in litigation with the state of New York. Now, 51 acres of property is the equivalent of 38 football fields. Let that sink in a little bit. 38 football fields. That's what the Seneca Nation of Indians has in downtown Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls redevelopment. Out-of-towners, downstaters, don't care much about our city, has 142 acres. Almost 3 times as much as the Seneca Nation of Indians. So you're talking about over 100 football fields of property that they've done nothing with. They've watched homes deteriorate. We've had to direct them to demolish properties. We've had to force them to maintain their properties, all while they continue to go to court to try and see if they can reduce their tax burden so that you and me can pay more taxes because they don't want to pay property taxes. If there was ever a worse neighbor to have in our community, I can't think of one. I can't think of one. Let's end this on a positive note. Next week, we're going to have our first developers tour for our North Main Street development. You may recall a couple of weeks ago, we were at the Rapids Theater announcing the project that will include the reimagining of the Rapids Theater as well as the reimagining of the entire North Main Street corridor, right where the Downtown Revitalization Initiative is. And one of the keystones will be university housing, getting our Niagara University students who do quite a bit of work here in our community at the direction of the administration and faculty at Niagara University, getting them into some brand new first-rate university apartments right on Main Street. So we'll be doing a tour where developers who have expressed some interest will be able to get a look at the buildings, try to envision the improvements that they will have to do in terms of developing those buildings. We'll discuss with them, obviously, the incentives that are out there, because many of those buildings, many of them are historic. So there are tax credits and a number of other things that can help incentivize that construction. So we're looking forward to that as that begins to kick off in the first quarter of this year. So, and there'll be more on that as it continues to happen. Again, the unseasonably warm weather is over. We're going to be stuck in about 20 degrees something or others for the next couple weeks. And right now there's a little bit of snow wisping around out there. So I've said this a couple of times, and I hope that we all can remember it. We need to remember that we're driving in winter now. We've had a couple of different accidents that have been remarkable for people who are born and raised up here in the winter, where roads change, as the seasons change. And so your driving style, your driving attention needs to change as well. So over this weekend and into the rest of this winter, please remember, you have to drive safely out there. The roads could be clear, but that doesn't mean that they may not be icy as the wind blows and sort of freezes over whatever it is that our crews have been out there trying to melt with salt application to the streets. So please be careful. A lot of what we do in the winter as far as driving and ability is really based on us. We as drivers have to be very careful. You've got people out there that are still operating bicycles. We have disabled folks who are out on the roads. So be aware, be safe, drive carefully, and I know that you, like myself, will be eager to know more about all of these developments that are happening, as well as, again, paying real close attention to so much of what our council does. So I will be making sure that I share that with you as we come together each week. And again, please be careful this weekend. Stay warm, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.